Welcome back, ladies and gents, to episode 15 of The Letter. Last episode, we finished up Mariana's nice little story, and now we're on to Rebecca. Let's continue. At any rate, they're nothing but well-behaved, both Kylie and her brother. Rowan, the eldest, may have an occasional odd streak in and out of class, but their parents taught them well. I see no reason to cast any suspicion of bad behavior.
As long as it isn't anything dangerous, all right?
It's not! Cross my heart! My drawings are a lot prettier than what he's doing anyway. Tio said so. He wanted to see? I drew one earlier at class.
Oh no.
Is that why you're here?
It's gonna be a dead girl.
Not really. I was gonna show it to my friend first. But since it's you, I'm sure she wouldn't mind if you see it before she does.
Oh no. I can't stay right now, Kylie.
Her face falls immediately after the words are out. A small part of me feels responsible for that crescent-fallen look, but as much as I want to stay a little longer, there's another place I need to be at right now. And frankly, another child to look after. Taking both of her hands, I kneel in front of her and muster the most rueful smile I can give. At her age, I'm quite sure she's already understand what I'm about to say before they're even out. But remarkably, she doesn't look away or pout as I'm expecting her to.
I'm sorry. You know what? Rowan has a class with me on Monday around this time. Why don't you drop by again next week? After class? I'll even make sure to wait for you. It's just that I absolutely must leave now. My friend had an accident earlier, and I'm the only one she has here.
What about her mama and papa?
They're dead.
Her family lives really far from here, I'm afraid.
That's Zach's
Do you remember
family.
where Asia is? The southeast part? That's where they are.
Her eyes immediately light up at my question. Just like that, I know I've earned the girl's forgiveness.
Oh, just like Takako.
Who?
My friend. She said she used to live there. Only just a little higher than southeast. But she hasn't come home in a long time, so she doesn't remember much about it anymore. Melody says it's weird I talked to her, but I think she's just shot. They could be good friends too. Don't you think so, Miss Pink?
I gotta go, kid.
Maybe if you introduce them properly, they will be.
That's what I think.
Oops. Sorry.
Takako's just lonely.
Smacking
if she makes more
everything.
friends, she won't be anymore. Is your friend like that too?
A little, possibly. To be honest, sometimes I can't tell with her.
After all, Isabella has always been the kind to hold a smile, even when things have taken a turn for the worse. 5 years and one will think it's enough time to know a person. But when you consider it, come to think of it, all these years I've never, not even once, seen her cry. Not over a trivial matter or even when things are rough.
Okay, you can go to her. I'll just show you my drawing next time.
Thank you. Remind me to buy you a huge glass of parfait, all right?
No, I'll get a stomachache. Takako says so. A small one is okay.
I'll remember that. Say hi to your friend for me.
I will. I'm sure she'd love to meet you too. See you, Miss Pink.
I'll see you later, Kylie.
London Bridge is
She doesn't look back or wait for any sort of goodbye from me.
Falling down. London Bridge is falling
With the song
down.
and an extra spring in her
My
steps,
fair lady.
she bounds across the corridor with as much spirit only a child her age can have. As if the conversation has never taken any downhill turn for her at all. As if there isn't a single thing to worry about in the world. Not long after, she disappears behind a door, leaving behind strains of an old, familiar rhyme lingering in the ear. Carefree, unbinded, untroubled moments like this, I envy her. And as I resume my hurried pace, a tiny whisper at the back of my mind wishes the same could be said of myself and my own worries. Luxembourg may be a small city, but it is no stranger. But surprisingly, getting out of city today proves more of a breeze, a relief, considering how none of my calls to Isabel have made it through. Either the receptionist's really bad over there, or she's ignoring them on purpose. Both does nothing to ease the disquiet in me. The rest of my drive passes without much incident as soon as I'm out of the busy streets. In less than 30 minutes, the mansion looms ahead of me. For all the fuss Isabella made about the house, it remains a thing of beauty. Unlike Luxembourg, the estate and the nearby Anselm village stand as its complete opposite. Living and breathing the songs of the old, whispers of a once booming haven lingering the air. Contemporary conveniences aside, it's a place I'm glad modernization hasn't wholly touched.
It's just a shame the locals know more of the silly hearsay than the history itself. If I could only knock some sense into these people!
Sadly, complaining is all I can afford to do. As much as I want to give them a piece of my mind, it isn't why I'm here. I don't think these rich types will appreciate getting a lecture from me either. I have as much business with them as they have with me. With a heavy sigh, I give myself one last second to take in the scenery before heading up the main entrance. Most of the guests are already heading out, though some still linger. It's mainly just to take photos of the house's facade or its various rooms. I pause for a moment, scanning the small crowd gathered at the foyer, looking for any sign of that familiar ponytail among the sea of hats.
No sign of her.
No sign of the other staff or Miss Cooper either. I could certainly look for Isabel on my own, but in a place this big? I'd be lucky if I didn't end up lost or find her beneath we met with Zachary and Ash tonight. Sighing, I reach for my mobile and redial her, the gesture familiar now after so many attempts earlier. If she doesn't answer, I can still try contacting Mrs. Cooper. Miss Cooper. I just hope the network reception will cooperate this time. The side of the country has never been popular with the tech-savvy, after all. To my relief, it only took 3 unsuccessful tries. At the 4th one, Ray is about to switch to another intercept message. The line finally rings. Silence follows while I wait for her to pick up, the ring going far too long for my tastes. By now, most of the visitors have already cleared out. All I have for the company are the faint murmurs and an eerie calmness left in their wake. A sudden hush settles and gives way to noises louder than ever meant to be. Doors creaking and slamming shut in some distant part of the mansion, floorboards groaning under the sheer weight of the house's history. In the now empty hall, they all reverberated with special clarity against the walls. Like this, those old stories seem to have a ring of truth to it. I don't get to stray far into the ugly line of thought, however. Not a second later, a click sounds from the other end.
Hello? Isabella? Miss Cooper called earlier and... Isabella? Belle? Are you alright?
Without any warning, the call gets cut off. Busy notes blare sharply against the heavy silence, but above the noise cutting through the mute air remain the faint cries of a woman from beyond the foyer. My hand falls to my side as I cast a wary look around, waiting for someone to come running. Surely I can't be the only one here hearing this. There still must be some staff hanging around, checking things out. But no one does, not even when her sobs turn more frantic and anguished.
Hello? Who's there? Isabella? Isabella? Is that you?
No answer. Growing anxious, I amble over where her cries come from, each step slow and cautious, towards the door on the other end of the room. While I'm far from someone who readily gives in to fear or stories lacking factual basis, the vague, restless feeling I have earlier immediately returns to me, and despite myself, my heart begins to race and my breathing quickens.
Belle? Belle, it's me. Miss Cooper called. Is everything okay?
Abruptly, all of it stops. My whole body tenses, mouth dragging in a ragged breath, ears straining for any other sound yet to come from the other side. But nothing follows. Instead, the quiet only lends itself to the heavy tension in the air, as if every small movement will disturb the fragile stillness hanging in the room. I wait for another second. Then, with caution, I reach for the knob. My fingers barely graze the brass handle when a hand falls on my shoulder.
Excuse me, ma'am? I am so sorry. I didn't mean to startle you.
No, it's a...
Still reeling, my gaze shifts back to the door as if any second now the cries will start again or whoever's inside will burst out of the room, but I don't get to dwell on these. The woman's worried voice breaks through the haze in my mind again, oddly soothing in the thick of my unease. Even if the concerned look comes from a total stranger, finally being in the company of someone else is somehow comforting.
Ma'am? Are you okay?
Oh, no, I'm fine. This is probably just some cold.
Do you need to sit down?
No need. I'm actually looking for a friend.
I wave the mobile in front of her like the gesture alone explains everything. Vaguely, I note my tight grip on it and quickly slip it in my pocket before she notices. She doesn't need to know.
Well, I'm not really sure if your friend would still be here. We're actually about to close the open house in a few minutes, ma'am.
No worries. She's not a guest here. She works for Briar Realty. Miss Cooper called me earlier. In fact, I'm also looking for her.
Recognition flashes in her eyes and her worried expression dissolves into a smile at once. It's all I need to know that I don't have to look elsewhere or venture deeper into the mansion on my own. In some way, I'm not too keen on the latter right now.
Miss Rebecca Gales, is it?
Yes. Sorry if I'm a bit late.
It's not a problem. I was busy with the open house and a few clients anyway. It's actually a good thing you came when you did. Let's see. Isabella should be here somewhere. I told her to stay put earlier. Girl never listen.
Rose? Rosie? May I have a minute? There's just this one little thing before we go.
Mrs. Cooper's head immediately snaps up at the voice. In a blink, a different kind of smile spreads on her face. A smile, still, friendly, even, but the kind given mainly for the sake of pleasing other people rather than making friends.
Ma'am. I'll be there in a few.
It's an impressive thing, to say the least. That level of professionalism? I suppose working years in this kind of business trains you enough to be able to pull. You're stuck in here with me now, dog. This is what happens. Go lay down and relax. Sorry about that. Dog busted in. We'll continue here. It certainly didn't seem to have rubbed off on Isabella, though.
Sorry, could you give me a second? I have to take care of this.
Don't worry about it. I understand. I can wait a few more minutes. Clients, right?
You won't hear anything from me. Priorities, you know. But if you want, you can stay at the parlor in the meantime. I think we have a few refreshments left.
No, thank you. I'm going out with a few friends after this. Isabella's supposed to join us too. But that depends on how she's doing, of course.
All right, this won't be long, I promise.
She throws me an apologetic look before sauntering over the small group gathered at the entrance. A couple, or siblings, and another woman. Either way, they look no different from the other guests, all three of them primly dressed, albeit in a manner significantly simpler than the others, no frills, no extravagance of any sort. But their gestures and movement alone speak volumes of their ingrained lifestyle. In their presence, I do what I can to appear inconspicuous on my side of the foyer. Maybe accepting Mrs. Cooper's offer would have been a much better choice than standing around awkwardly and gaping at them. All while also attempting my best not to listen in on their conversation. Although that one proves more difficult with how enthusiastic the blonde woman is. Her voice easily echoes through the walls. With only the five of us here, pretty soon I find myself being drawn into their talk without meaning to.
Tomorrow? First thing in the morning?
First thing in the morning, ma'am.
The mundane talk isn't what catches my attention, however.
We'll have our lawyers prepare everything as soon as possible. Let's make this whole thing easier for everyone, shall we? Just let me know if there's anything you need from me. You know how to contact me, yes?
Got your mobile number saved here already.
But she ends up dying
Good.
tonight, doesn't she?
It's just a matter of time then.
It's a brief moment, a fleeting shift of my
Monday
eye.
for us, Marianne.
As long as you're positive, we won't be having any problems by that time. You can count on my team.
You worry too much. Let me handle those things. Do be thrilled, though. I imagine it's not every day you get projects like this,
And the instant I turn my gaze on him, I see it.
Oh, I'm certain Mint's ecstatic, Buttercup. Aren't you, Marianne? You know, we could all celebrate this with a few drinks. Why don't we?
Can I get a threesome?
In fact, there's this really excellent Irish pub I visited a few days ago.
Looming, hovering over his shoulders, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. It's death, a dark blur. No, a shadow.
I think I'll pass on that, sir.
Uh-oh.
I have more important matters to attend to.
Heather, love, she's busy.
Oh, no.
You never let me do anything fun.
But as I try to make sense of it, a heavy feeling descends over my whole body. It happens without warning, forcing me to close my eyes. The sensation creeps to every part of me, crawling under my skin and draining me little by little of any strength. Before I know it, my hand is gripping the nearby door for support. The sudden nausea drowns out their voices and what little sound there is, all except for the whispers and laughters. Judging, mocking, taunting, muffled, inaudible words bearing down on me like a death sentence. They wrap around my neck and limbs, binding, tightening with every syllable, every utterance. And with each draw of breath I take, they drag me down slowly, almost painfully, into a bottomless abyss. On, and on, and on, till the sounds turn into a mere distant echo. Till suddenly it
Well,
shatters.
what are we waiting for? Are we done here?
His voice rips through the fog like a sharp blade, and my eyes snap open. When I look to them again, it's gone.
You can head back to the car first if you want, Luke. I hope that settles everything, Rose. I don't know what Isabel's problem is, but please make sure she doesn't hurt herself. Anyway, we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Likewise, ma'am.
No shadows or dark clouds, only amicable smiles and cordial handshakes. The usual pleasantries as Mrs. Cooper leads them out of the mansion like a graceful host. None of the group seemed to have noticed it. And even as I force my breathing to come down, keep my eyes trained on their backs and wait for something to happen, it doesn't come back. She returns a moment later. Gently, she closes the great doors behind her. But there's a smile on her lips and an extra skip in her step when she walks back to me. Whatever she was discussing with the group had put her in a good mood. Even she appears to have not observed anything odd. Was I just seeing things?
Glad that was over. It's been a long day. I thought for sure we're going to... Hey, are you sure you're doing okay? You look a bit green.
It's all good. I'm actually still recovering from a cold. Weather's been crazy lately.
That must be it. The weather, this stupid cold, and the friendly warnings I'm too stubborn to listen to. As much as I hate to admit it, Isabella's right. I was and still am a little feverish when she visited me at school this morning. The medicine helped, of course, but only some. Although it's not like I can't function, I did get better after lunch, and I was able to go through my schedule like the usual. Now I'm not so sure. However, I can't keep acting like I've seen some sort of apparition when it's anything but. I simply must have listened too many times to Isabella last week. My fever-muddled mind has started to confuse things. If this doesn't let up, I'll just need another visit to the doctor, plain and simple. Though I do hope it won't get worse. We did promise to watch Zachary's film together.
I know what you mean. I've been complaining to Isabel. It doesn't seem to affect her much, though. Must be because she grew up in the tropics. Anyway, shall we? She's probably hanging out with the rest of the catering staff.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised she's there. She eats like 10 hungry men when she isn't feeling well. Lead the way.
With a small nod, she gestures for me to follow. I do so without much thought, finally putting everything in the back of my mind. The entire visit took a whole 24 minutes, and my trip, oh, Isabel is no longer there, left shortly before I arrived, or at least that's what the few staff who saw her assumed. None of them knew where she went, but I could take a few guesses. There are only a number of places in Luxembourg she frequents, and well, she's never been the complex kind. It doesn't really take a genius to figure it out. Still, it's odd she left on her own. She could have at least waited for Miss Cooper. I would have saved her having to pay the cab's fare
And
twice
right
today.
after she was told to stay put! I mean, who does that? Oh, sod off! You don't own the road!
Oh, damn. Road rage. In the end, all Miss Cooper could give me was a string of apologies for my trouble and a request to let her know when I find Isabella. The whole affair didn't even last long. I probably spent more time traveling back and forth. Soon enough, I'm weaving my way back downtown Luxembourg, worried sick, and on top of that, maybe a little annoyed. Whether at the unexpected turn of events or at Isabella herself, I'd rather not think about for it now. Not when I'm already running late for Zachary's film. Besides, I'm perfectly sure that's where I'll find her. As one would expect, people are already gathered at the movie house when I get to it. The small avenue where it's located has been closed off early from any passing traffic to make way for the avid moviegoers who are sure to crowd the venue. I have to park almost a street away and walk the remaining distance because of it. Looking for them has taken a while in a crowd this big, but I eventually spot them near the entrance. Thanks to Zachary mostly, and like I've surmised, Isabella's with them.
I knew it.
Wasting no time, I march over their little group. Words filled with concern tumble out of my mouth before I can stop myself.
Isabella! Oh, thank goodness! Becca, you're just in time.
An odd expression crosses her face as I hold it with both hands, but I ignore it in favor of getting a good look at her, forcing her to keep still and fix her gaze at me.
You're squishing my face.
How are you? Are you all right?
Why wouldn't I be?
There doesn't seem to be any visible injury, nor does she appear to be in pain. Apart from her confused frown at my questions, she looks pretty much like how she would any other day. Even so, you can't really tell those things with her at first glance. The last time she got sick, she never bothered to call anyone, even me, who lives right next door. If I hadn't checked on her, then she would have probably died on her bed with the rest of us none the wiser. It's one thing we laugh about, but moments like this also teach you something about a person. If anything, it has given me more reason to constantly worry about her. And the moment a familiar name comes up, I know my concerns right now aren't completely
Rose called
baseless.
me earlier.
Her expression swiftly changes, and gently as she can, Isabella pushes my hands away, yet even before she says anything, I already have a hunch how this whole thing will play out.
No, everything's good. Rose covered for me at work today.
That's not what I'm talking about. How's your head?
Then and there, the whole conversation goes down as I've imagined. She touches my hand when I reach for the back of her head, intending to check that the said injury myself, even make a show of hiding behind Zachary just to avoid me. Instantly, what's supposed to be a simple inquiry dissolves into a shameless game of tag, shouting and chasing like none of us can be bothered to act like the full-grown adults we're all supposed to be, including Ashton. I won't put it past Isabella, but Ash, out of everyone? In fact, if that stupid smirk on his face tells me anything, he finds this whole mess amusing. Oh, for the love of...
Isabella, this isn't a laughing matter.
She did look pale when I saw her.
Wow, thanks a lot, Ashton, you traitor. I'll get you back for this. Just you wait.
What? I'm just saying it as it is. If you mentioned this earlier, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
There's a moment's pause. My hand stills mid-air as my attention shifts to Ashton and the words he leaves hanging between the four of us. He doesn't meet my eye. I don't think he's even aware of what he said. But the meaning in each syllable alone is clear. And they echo. They sting. They burn.
I'm sorry. Saw her?
Yeah, they arrived together. Bella looked fine to me then. I don't know.
Of course. Of course. Why else would Isabella leave on her own after being told to stay put, after the little chat about money this morning? Something close to silence falls while I mull over their words, both what's already been said and what's left unspoken. When I do find my voice, it only reeks with nothing but bitter, unpleasant thoughts. Thoughts I quickly stamp out before they surface. Thoughts I hide the best I can in the deepest parts of my mind, locking away for no one to see.
That's good. At least she didn't have to travel alone, right? At least. Good.
Yet try as I might, the green-eyed monster easily rears its ugly head, like it always does every time his gaze lingers a second longer. Every time he smiles in a manner far too gentle, far too sincere, whenever he thinks no one can see. Every time my mind suggests his words mean more than they should. Every small little thing, despite what he says, despite his tone.
Look, you guys.
For all I know, it may just be the same kind of fondness born from friendship. Maybe I'm simply overthinking like he often tells me, or maybe there really is something there. But in a short display of impatience, I know the whole of it is just for show. After all, growing up together with him didn't teach me nothing about him. For whose sake it is this time, though? For him? For Zachary? For her? Or for me? That I can't tell.
If she says she's okay, then there's nothing we can do about it. It's not like we can stop her either. Besides, she's still acting like the same old Isabella to me, if she can still run around like that.
Why are you taking her side?
I'm not. But if she wants to watch Zach's movie with us, I'm not going to stop her. She's probably the one looking forward to it the most.
Ash, that's... You, of all people, should know...
Tell you what, if I notice something amiss with her, I'll take her to the nearest hospital myself. Is that good enough for you?
My mouth opens and snaps shut almost as quickly, forming a thin, hard line instead. I can't respond, not because there's nothing to say. On the contrary, there's plenty, so many things I can use to reason and get him to agree. But because he speaks with much certainty, with much reassurance, it feels like there isn't even a choice. All I can give is a long, deep breath and a reluctant nod in the face of it. Before I can get a grip of myself and on my own weakness, the mood immediately shifts and I'm being tackled into a hug.
Thanks, Becca! It's always been you with him, isn't it? Did you say something? Me? Nothing. Don't mind me.
A lie, obviously. What else can it be? Each and every smile, a tiny effort to keep things as they are, or so I tell myself. Little do I know, this is merely a preamble. It starts out quietly and without fanfare, amidst friendly jibes and harmless teasing, with a scrap of paper fluttering harmlessly on the ground. One that looks suspiciously like a cheap Halloween prank no matter how you look at it, and yet, despite how ludicrous it all is, Isabella stubbornly insists, as if our whole life depends on acknowledging the truth of the story. Does she even realize how absurd she sounds? Crivens, even my students wouldn't fall for this.
Aren't you taking this a bit too far?
She doesn't give me time to regret nor think over my choice of words. From there, it escalates, grows into an argument too petty even for our standards. Before we know it, one after another, harsh, scathing words are being spoken.
It's not a joke! Will you guys listen to me first? I saw something in the house earlier. It stood right in front of me. If I hadn't gotten away, that thing might have...
Right. And in broad daylight, Isabella. Even someone gullible would find the logic in that screwed up. There's also no way in hell that this supernatural shit is true.
But it's real! What do you think I saw?
A hallucination? A delusion? Didn't you say you fell down some stairs? So maybe Rebecca's right.
It happened after, when I was trying to get away. I almost got stuck in the same room with that thing. We're all in danger. I thought you were my friends. Why don't you believe me?
But someone has to be patient in all this, and however much my own has already been frayed earlier, there's no one else. Who else here can deal with someone selfishly acting like a kid? Like every other time, it has to be me.
We are, and you know that. But this thing and that thing has got nothing to do with the other. When Rose called earlier, I thought she's just exaggerating. But based on what I'm seeing right now, maybe it's better if we really postpone this for now.
Don't bother.
Just like that, she cuts us off. Slams the door right on our faces while my own tempers flare before I can stop it. Although it falters briefly at the hard expression on her when she snatches the blasted paper from Ashton, I hold onto it too. Regardless of how upset she appears, soured expression and balled fist, throwing a tantrum is simply unacceptable. For a grown woman at that. Words form at the tip of my tongue, ready. But before I can open my mouth and let all of it out, her feelings and mistakes be damned, Zachary raises a voice of his
Guys!
own. A warning underneath the warm and hopeful beat in his voice. We all stop and look at him. Even my own anger subsides a little at his tone.
Why don't we all calm down first? I'm sure Isabella has her reasons too. No need to be hard on her. And hey, ain't this supposed to be a happy get-together?
To an outsider, it may sound like a desperate request, but Zachary has always been the one to keep a level head over petty squabbles. This time's no different. He knows what to say, and when he lets it fall, they only ring sharp and true.
We haven't seen each other for months. I'd really love to know what y'all have been up to. I only ever get to talk to Bella over chat. Please.
And as careful as he is with his own tone, it does make me feel ashamed. We're supposed to be here for him, to give what little support we can give, yet here he is trying to keep three stubborn people from outright hashing it out in public. Later we can and we will talk about it. There's a proper time and place for it, and at the moment my anger or whatever reprimands it carries no longer matter. Beside me, Ashton appears to have already caught on. The lines on his shoulders ease something much more relaxed, his expression back to his usual nonchalance. Isabella, however, she stands perfectly still, her hands clasping the straps of her bag like a lifeline, eyes trained at some point near her. There's no anger in her face, only an undeniable hurt, but she's never been good at hiding what she thinks, always the open book, always the one to wear her heart out in the open. And when she looks up, her answer is also
as
as simple.
If we keep arguing here, we're going to miss the first few minutes.
Her lips are curled up in a smile, though lacking both its usual brightness and glee. It's a smile nonetheless. I've seen it countless of times. It's the very same one she would show when she knows she has no other choice, or simply when things get out of her. But despite everything I already know about her, it still catches me off guard. In all honesty, I expected her to run, to balk at the first sign of losing this time. I won't even be surprised. At 26, she's the youngest among the rest of us, less experienced, less accustomed to dealing with trivial quarrels like this. Yet here she is, holding herself and coping with it like how she would with matters concerning her family. Outside of that, to me, she has always been this childish, naive girl, and watching the opposite play out right now. Somehow, I find it difficult to wrap my head around it.
All right, that's the Isabella I know.
Oh, good. I thought for sure you were going to cry.
But I envy her.
What was that for?
Stop calling me a crybaby! I'm not one!
Oh, don't cry.
Stop it!
I envy her spirits, her warmth, her cheer, the shine in her eyes when she looks at the world, how everything seems to simply fall back to pleasant, lively rhythm with her around, how easily and tightly she fits into our lives, even without bonds only long years could forge, like a lost piece puzzle, despite her jagged edges. How she draws people to her with ease, how Ashton of all people can be drawn to her.
Scaredy cat then.
That too! If you repeat that, I swear I'll...
Let's just go.
I make no effort keeping the bitterness from my tone. I let it seep, linger stiffly in the air as I avert my gaze from them. From their playful banter, their friendly teasing remarks, and Ashton's tender, affectionate smiles. All before the stabbing aches in my heart change into something too painful to bear. It's all in my head, is what I often tell myself, yet the way my heart rends at just the sight of them hurts. And like a coward, I walk away from it all, taking with me a small hope that the movie will distract me away from these thoughts. Because like this, it's easy to find something to hate in her. Dusk has already given way tonight when we leave. Unfortunately, it does nothing to improve my mood like I'm hoping. Neither does the muggy air. It's too busy. It's too loud. Too many people taking what little space the sidewalk offers. It forces anyone to bump shoulders with those that they barely know. On a normal evening, I probably wouldn't have minded the crowd nor the humid weather. It's not like any of them are bothering anyone. And yet, even with what's admittedly a pleasant company, I can't bring myself to lighten up.
See you guys some other time.
Yeah, see ya.
Not even to return the smiles Ashton and Zachary gives us when we go our separate ways. Perhaps this started with Mrs. Cooper's call, or earlier than that, maybe even the moment I left bed this morning. Bloody hell, it could have been because of that sodding letter, for all I know. I couldn't care less at this point. All I want is to get a warm bath, sleep, and wait for this dreadful day to end. Now, if only Isabella would stop babbling, then maybe this dull throbbing at the side of my head won't turn into a full-blown headache too.
Zach did a pretty good job with his movie, didn't he? Even though Ash said he ran into some trouble late into filming. But I knew he had it in him. It's not like I didn't believe he couldn't do it. I mean, did you see his face after the credits rolled? All those months he worked on this, and everything's finally...
You weren't even watching.
Only the first minutes. I watched the rest of it, I swear. Besides, Ashton was the one who wouldn't stop asking questions.
Well, why do we still need to talk about this then? I liked it. Ash liked it. You liked it. Shouldn't you be telling that to Zachary in person? I'm sure he'll appreciate it better than I ever will.
I know that, but maybe there's something you want to say? Zach had you check the scripts before he went through everything, didn't he? You also worked on it, even if it was only for a short time. So, maybe you want to...
I don't bother waiting for the rest. The moment I spot my car, I immediately make a quick beeline for it. Knowing her, this is merely another attempt at starting a conversation just so we'll have something to fill the dead air, to replace the strained atmosphere we've somehow walked into. One thing, the very thing I'm not too keen to deal with at present. Behind me, Isabella also changes her pace to match mine, her soft strides growing brisk and uneven in order to catch up. A small part of me half expects she'll suddenly trip. She's not the clumsy sort, but there are definitely times when she can at least be a coordinated person on the planet.
Becca, hey! Oh no, wait for me!
And people wonder why I worry. They're not really completely unfounded once you've already grown familiar with her habits, though right now this is also at the end of the list of things I want to think about. Sometimes it does become overbearing. Even her voice as she calls after me sounds nothing more than background noise to my ears now.
Rebecca, slow down, will you? Your car's not going to leave without us.
The sooner we get on the road, the earlier we can get home. It's Friday, in case you didn't notice.
I know what day it is, but the traffic's not going to magically disappear, even if we go there right now.
I don't want to hear that from you. Didn't you used to complain how horrendous the traffic is back home for you?
Yeah? But that doesn't have anything to do with this, Becca.
Okay. What do you want to do then? Wait it out? Walk? I just want to go home, Isabella. If you want to stay out here longer, I won't stop you. But leave me out of it. I'm not up for any other foolish excursions tonight.
I wasn't thinking about an excursion. I want to go home too. It's already late. It's just that you've been in this prickly mood since earlier. Are you really okay? Was it the cold? Or did something happen at school? Do you want to talk about it?
A long pause follows, and it holds everything she's been meaning to ask from the very start. I'm in no mood, but all the same, my hand stops short of unlocking my car and my grip on the handle tightens. I can feel her eyes boring on me, waiting, hoping patiently for an answer I'd give. She's the same as Zachary. They're bad liars. But when you talk to people like them, if you're not careful, they often leave you with no other choice but to admit the truth. Those exact same ones I can't voice. Despite my lack of response, she pushes on, surprisingly. This time, her tone is quieter, more tentative than usual.
Was it because of the letter?
It's a well-meaning question, much like the rest of this talk, yet something how she says it irks me.
I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to cause a scene. I did see something in the mansion, though. I wasn't lying about that.
Whenever she wants to take this, I no longer want to hear a word of it. Not at this moment, preferably never. Especially when there are already a million other things buzzing and prodding inside my head. Sometimes my patience can only be tried for so long. Well, if these are my only two options, I don't want to lie to her. Because we all know it ain't the cold. I'm actually move this microphone down here. Oh, excuse me. I don't want to lie to her because we all know it's not the cold. So I'm just gonna say I'm not in the mood to talk about this right now.
And during the open house, even if there were a lot of people around, there were weird things happening. I don't know if there was anyone else who noticed, but I heard things. I'm sure it wasn't because I fell down the stairs. Even before that, in the attic,
Will you give the sorting letter a rest already?
The effect is immediate. Abruptly, Isabella clamps her mouth shut. Okay, well, I didn't want to be an asshole about it. Hurt flickers across her face as she looks away and her shoulders droop, all before the thought of holding back on my tone or how she'll take every word crosses my mind. When the realization does hit afterwards, a twinge of guilt washes over me at once. But with all that has already been said and done, what am I supposed to tell her then? That I'm someone who could be so easily unsettled by my own assumptions? That this stupid sulk has been brought upon some equally stupid jealousy? Yeah. That the simple glimpse of her and my childhood friend together infuriates a part of me? Yes. Or that I wish I had been in her place during those times instead? Sure not. I owe her neither of those, and if anything, she's the last person I want to know about it.
Look here. I'm not in the mood for this kind of talk tonight. My head is aching and I'm tired. I don't want to hear about the dumb letter, or the mansion, or whatever it was you saw in the bloody attic. Just get in the car and we're going home.
Sorry. I won't mention it again.
If you're so worried about it, why don't you just throw the blasted thing away?
You make it sound so easy.
Because it is. Here, hand it over and I'll do it for you. Might as well shred it up while we're at it.
I hold a hand out to her, though the gesture is without any expectations. She's nothing if not stubborn, and it isn't surprising when she turns the offer down with a swat of her hand.
Rebecca, just leave it alone, okay? I get it. You don't want anything to do with it.
Good. I hope that settles it.
Yeah, just forget I mentioned anything. I'll figure it out myself.
That makes me stop again. This time, I turn to look at her, searching her face for an explanation. But all she offers me is a sidelong glance, and another one of those pained looks before climbing into the passenger seat and closing the door behind her. Somehow, even with this steady din of traffic around us, the sound of that feels heavier, weighted with everything we refuse to utter tonight. This is what I want, isn't it? It certainly doesn't feel like it. Thankfully, if there's anything left to be spoken between us after, we won't have to discuss it on the way home. Or rather, we can't, because no sooner than we hit the road, Isabella dozes off. Despite my foul mood, I still end up suppressing laughter once the first sounds of her breathing fill the car.
Mama?
Not your mom, Isabella.
Slow and steady, the quiet rhythm so completely unlike her, so far removed from every impression anyone has of her. A few faint whimpers will occasionally come from her, but otherwise it's just us, the silence, and it's so. Still a welcome break, of course. Peace and quiet is one thing you rarely get with her around. Yet it's nowhere near comforting. It merely lends the air this strange clarity, every little sound, every single movement. When it comes the unease, a jolt of surprise hits me. It's almost comical, as if there's a different situation. In my haste, I accidentally dislodge my mobile from its seat on the dashboard when I swipe on the screen. Soon I'm scrambling blindly for it with my other hand while keeping a steady eye on the road ahead. A voice crackles from the loudspeakers before I can put it back. Oh, she's dead. Although muffled heavily by the surface, I recognize the person on the other line from her chipper tone alone.
Hello?
Miss Cooper?
Oh, you're still awake.
She dies
Evening.
tonight.
I hope I didn't disturb you or anything. I know it's a bit late. Sorry about that. I just want to check on you and Isabella. That girl's still not answering her mobile. Were you able to meet up with her?
Yes. She's with me. We're on our way home.
Hello? What was that again? I can't hear you properly.
Sorry. Let me just fix this dumb phone.
My hand stops dead for a moment. I spare the device a brief glance, waiting. Seconds pass. Nothing happens, though. Frankly, I'm not sure what I'm expecting, but the lines of my mouth forms into a frown, regardless.
Miss Cooper?
Yes, still here.
Did you say something?
Just that I didn't get the last part. What were you saying again?
No, I thought you... Never mind. Must be the signal acting up. Come again?
What?
Is everything all right over there?
Certainly. Is something wrong? What wouldn't? Okay, you seem to be busy. If this is a good time, I can just call you back some other...
I have to make a conscious effort not to panic right then and there, although my tight hold on the steering wheel tells a different story
Miss Cooper?
altogether.
Rose? Hey, Rose! Are you still there?
Only a burst of static answers me, and maybe this lapse is entirely because of exhaustion. It has been a long day, and I haven't fully recovered from last week's bout of flu, contrary to what I've been telling people. Though perhaps, had I paid closer attention to it and not been so occupied with other thoughts, I probably would have noticed earlier that it never came from my phone, but from somewhere right behind me. Time slows to a crawl. Looking up is a mistake. The first thing I see is its face, a ghastly shade, every inch battered, bruised, and bloodied. Even in the darkness and the world passing by a blur of lights outside, I can still make out the wounds. Blood still oozes from it, little trails of crimson running down its face, glistening under what little light there is. But it is the gleam in its car, and that catches mine. The quiet plea, the anguish, and the desperation in them, more than its hideous features and the awful stench of gore. And try as I might, I can't bring myself to look away, even as its lips contorted to a horrific smile, even as a sharp, harsh noise pierces the air and the silence around us. Get out of my...
Rebecca! Huh? Car! Eyes on the road!
Against everything I've been taught, and I've constantly reminded myself, I close my eyes. Nice. Get out my car. It's a brief moment, a short, vivid second of muscle memory and instinct completely take over. And if I didn't allow it, my hands didn't move or my feet didn't hit the brakes in the exact second, I might have. Isabella and I might have. No. I shake the notion away before I lose myself in it. Right now, it's an ugly line of thought I refuse to venture into, not when breathing is a struggle and every ounce of strength has been totally drained from my body. Most definitely not while Isabella's panic voice beside me still rings in my ears. We're alive. We're safe. That's all that matters. But it is not her face that I look for when I finally open my eyes. All gone. I expected stains, little telling marks and creases on the cover to show me where it sat not a second ago. But whatever it is, it left not a single trace. And though courage is a hard thing to gather at this point, I take what little of it remains of me and turn towards the back seat. Even then, there's none. Or was there really something in there in the first place? With how empty it is, I'm beginning to doubt it. This stupid flu again.
I need a long rest after this.
My hands fall uselessly to my side, numb from how taut my grip on the wheel has gone, yet still trembling. Against my ears, my heart still pounds in erratic rhythm, and my breathing hasn't slowed down. But the world has already righted itself without waiting for me, and little by little, second after second, as I sit here motionless, color begins to seep back around me. Along with it are the sounds and a voice, no longer the indistinct ringing it was earlier.
Becca! Becca! Are you okay?
Just tell her what you saw.
Answer me, will you? You're scaring me! You know what? I think we should just call a taxi since...
Can you keep it down?
Oh my god. Strained, harsh, and completely unintentional. But with heat prickling at the back of my eyes and the mild throbbing at my temple, I could honestly do with a little silence for now.
Keep it down? We almost crashed, Becca!
I know what happened. It was a lapse. I'm sorry.
A lapse? You call that a lapse? Becca, I really don't want to end up a mangled mess on the side of the road, or a mangled mess anywhere. All I'm asking, if the time ever comes, which I hope isn't right now, is a peaceful death. Give that one to me at least. Not that I'm asking for it, but please.
Isabella. Belle, you're overreacting. If you're so worried, why don't you drive?
Don't have a license.
I keep telling you to get one, didn't I? For the past 5 years. Do you see why now?
I wasn't really expecting to stay here this long. I thought it'd just be for a year or two.
All of a sudden, a pensive mood comes over her. Isabella looks away, then what's left of my little lecture never crosses the tip of my tongue. I don't allow it to. Because in each of those words she let loose earlier is a small truth. Her stay has always been meant to be something fleeting. Earn some good money, go home is what she'd tell herself during her first year here. Now, half a decade later, I'm not sure if she still believes that. Even I'm not sure if I still believe it. And if there's something in her reasons that has changed along the way, even if I already have a hunch, it's one thing I'll never bother to ask. Those are hers to
I'll
keep.
be careful this time, I promise. Just please, can we give this whole thing a rest for now?
She nods, and that is the end of it. We spend the rest of the trip back to Salem well in silence. All thoughts of an overactive imagination playing tricks on a flu-addled mind, and of smiles never meant for my eyes, abandoned only for a brief moment. October 25th, Tuesday. It begins innocently enough. Tuesday morning arrives like any other day before it, bright and clear. Even though it comes with an extra helping of unusual October weather, I appreciate being able to catch a glimpse of the clear skies lately. After going through a bout of sickness last week, it does something to lift the mood of what would otherwise be a dreary morning. And despite being mostly a creature of habit, I wind up waking earlier than usual because of it. Still, no earlier than Isabella, it appears. I've assumed she'll take a day or two off because of what happened to Mrs. Cooper, but that doesn't seem to be the case. The sound of the morning news drifts from her unit when I walk past on the way to my mailbox. Chances are around this hour she's already dressed and ready to go, probably just waiting for the next bus to arrive. I've tried following her example before, but I don't think I'll be repeating that.
Really? How can anyone be up before the sun is up?
It's a habit she got from home, she said, instilled in her by the kind of life she grew up in. Like clockwork, it's always at 4 a.m., either to help with the chores or prepare her little siblings for school. It surprised me the first time. She just didn't look like someone who could. In the end, I've simply passed it off as one of the many things anyone who will have to get used to around her. Not that I'll ever fully understand. I'm my parents' only child. We aren't well off, but so far, I've lived a relatively easy life. I don't have to think about bills or food for the next day, or paying for any siblings' tuition on top of my own, or supporting a sick father's medication. All I have to worry about were my grades. If I'd gained mom and dad's approval, or what we're having for dinner, when put next to hers, they all pale in comparison. They look less like problems, more like petty issues.
Petty issues?
But as unimportant as it sounds, sometimes its ugly head rears at the most inappropriate moments. And sometimes they come through your mailbox in the form of a fancy-looking letter, pretty ribbons and all. Whoever sent this has spent silly money on the envelope alone. Verging on ridiculous, really. I can already imagine Isabel wrinkling her nose when she sees this, and then she'll complain about unnecessary expenses and rich people problems. I'm almost afraid to touch it myself. As if simply brushing a hand against its crisp surface will be enough to put a crease on it, it'll be a terrible slight. But as extravagant as I find this, it isn't really the first time I received one. Most of the time, it's not even for me. Either way, no look of surprise crossed my face once I flipped the envelope over to see my parents' names written in a neat script.
Nothing new, then.
Their years in the academe naturally brought it with various connections, people from other fields, art, science, business, politics, you name it. This one, though, gives off a much personal vibe. Letters like this usually come from old students, people who've grown fond of my parents, and they, in turn, treat like children of their own. I've only met a few of them. Most have moved on to become successful in their chosen careers, and little letters like this are a way of expressing gratitude. It's one of the things Mom and Dad are proud of, rightfully so, and I'm happy for them. But there are times I wish they'll remember they have a daughter here. The real one. Not that it's any of importance now. It's not like they didn't raise me well and provide for me. They did. I wouldn't be where I am now if it weren't for their hard work. And like a dutiful child, I do everything I can to give back. Even if it's a small as a thing as letting them know they got another mail waiting for them. The phone rings for a good minute before someone answers. Mum, her voice as warm as I remember.
Becca?
Hi, Mum. How's the conference going?
Well enough. Until your dad sprained his ankle.
Oh no, is it bad?
I'm alright. In case anyone in this family cares to listen, I'm alright. Very much alive, darling.
And there you have it. He'll be up and walking in a few weeks, don't worry. We're going to have to extend our stay here until it heals, though. Is something the matter?
Nothing big. Just that this mail arrived for you this morning.
A lie. Thankfully, she doesn't notice. Although, if I'm going to be honest, a small part of me yearns for her to do so and ask me about it. But I put down that idea almost as soon as it surfaces. I shouldn't make them fret. They're busy.
What does it say?
Raise your glasses, give cheers to the good times, blah, blah.
Becca manners. That isn't how I taught you to read.
Sorry. You are cordially... it's an invitation, Mum, for a housewarming party. From, Hannah?
The name rings a bell, though at the moment I can't recall when or where I've heard it recently. It must be nothing too important if it didn't bother committing it to memory. There are a lot of Hannahs in the world, so who knows?
Hannah.
She also wrote you a note, Mum. It says you used to be her private tutor at the Evans mansion, and that she misses you and would love to see you two again.
It makes my heart clench to read another openly say those words to them, the same ones I want to tell them. I want to see you too. It's been years since we've been together as family, and if there's one thing that hasn't changed from childhood, it's that Mum and Dad are still busy with their respective careers out of the country. Symposium, sometimes for months on end. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where I will end the letter, episode 15 on Rebecca's Tale. And spooky stuff everywhere. Oh. This feature shows the outline of your current chapter and has content that... Oh, no, we ain't gonna look at that. We're not gonna spoil anything in this. But anyways, yeah, we're minus with Isabella. Sorry, Isabella. We're minus with Ashton, or we already started with that. Yeah, negative. Way negative with Luke. Who gives a shit about Luke? Mariana, though, way up there. Zach, we did good with Zach, although our ending, interesting. Isabella, we're down. Hannah, we're way up there. Hannah and Mariana, we really nailed together. And then Rebecca hasn't really had any great times, but I will see you all in the next episode.